Hanaina ora la aimaia wete irga yie ira enem eg ailis ta o weka. Taiolai la aima ha eg ko yai. Animals. A project long overdue. I am very excited to do this video. For literally years, I've been searching for ways to cover the topic of naming animals in Ailis. Now, you might be inclined to think, how hard can it be? You just invent a word and then assign a meaning to it. But if this isn't your first time watching, or if you've familiarized yourself with Ailis a bit already, then you'll know that the oligoanalytic or root word-based structure of this language isn't favorable for that approach. And by the ideology on which the Ailis language is built, you'll also know that I wouldn't settle for anything less than some kind of system, some form of comprehensive naming method by which all animals would be approached the same way, killing not two, but all of the birds with one stone, so to speak, of course. I postponed this project for years. I had no clue how to even begin, so every time I decided to just turn my back on it and ignore it for a while longer. Blissful ignorance, If I don't look at it, it's not there. But no more. No more running. I decided to face the issue and tackle it head on, obligating myself to just get it done. Shia LaBeouf style.
Do it! Just do it!
And so I did. But how did I start? Well, I've used existing sets of information before to base Ailis vocabulary on. The country names, for example, were fabricated by using the 3-letter ISO codes for those countries as a point of departure. I named all the chemical elements in the periodic table by means of the atomic symbols. So I figured that if I wanted to do something similar for the animals, the only comprehensive list I could rely on would be one that contained the scientific designations. Since I am far from a biologist, I had to read up a bit on how taxonomy, or the science of naming and categorizing, exactly works here. I learned that in biology, the highest classification is called the domain. That is the domain of life. The domain is made up of kingdoms. Each kingdom has its own phyla, singular phylum. Each phylum consists of classes and then orders, families, genera, and finally the species. Now, we already know that we'll be naming the animals, and the animals are a kingdom. So since we're exclusively working within it, we can disregard the domain and the other kingdoms from our scope. Then I considered the species. But that poses various problems. Firstly, there are millions of species worldwide. New ones get discovered practically every day. Secondly, species distinguish, for example, domestic cats from European wild cats, African wild cats, sand cats, etc. But when you look at pictures of all of those species, then a person like me is inclined to just go, yeah, those are all cats. I primarily wanted a word for cat, like we do in English. So those considerations led me to the decision that the species is too specific and would be left out of the scope. The narrowest distinction I would make was that of the genus. Alright? So I just had to find words for all the genera of animals, right? Wrong. In my quest, I stumbled over the word seagull, for example, and found out that seagulls, or rather the English word seagull, doesn't denote a genus of animals like the word cat does, but rather an entire family of similar birds. So I realized I needed to expand my ambitions. I didn't just need a word for all of the animal genera, but decided I'd require a word for every phylum, every class, every order, every family, and every single genus of animal known to man. Next step, finding a list I could work with. The most comprehensive list I found on this website, www.irmng.org. This stands for the Interim Register of Marine and Non-Marine Genera. Credit where credit's due. So I got myself a list and found out that it had, hold on to your hats, 150,000 entries. Okay, I'm exaggerating. 149,653, which is a pretty ridiculous number. Ugh. And I'm only limiting myself to existing animals, not extinct ones here. But hey, I had to get this done, and the ILIS project is an ambitious project. So, how? Well, for this task, I distinguished 3 pillars. The first pillar was transcription. ILIS does not have all the letters that the Latin alphabet does, so transcription was required either way. I figured that the letter C would turn into Q, so that, for example, the word Akko, which is a genus of moth, would turn into this. Except, let's look at the letter K. It would also turn into Q, right? So I found that my list also contained the word Akko spelled with 2 Ks, and it is not an alternative spelling of the same word spelled with Cs. No, Akko with 2 Ks is a genus of fish, particularly a type of goby. And with a simple transcription rule like this one, I would run into duplicates within the list. So I won't bother you with the details of how the transcription system actually works, but let's just say it's elaborate and it was painful. The second pillar of my approach consisted of ILization. Look at the word Wisniewskioplitis. It's a type of mite, look it up. And also there is Weinhoffella, I don't even know how to pronounce this, which is a type of worm. So even if we disregard the fact that ILIS has no letter W, then still these words would look and sound completely out of place in a spoken or written ILIS utterance. So I needed my transcription paradigm to also modify these words in a way that would make them sound more ILIS-like. You know, more in harmony with the general syllabic structure, phonotactics, and general flow of the language. And then the third pillar of my approach consisted of abbreviation. For example, I also found this monstrosity of a word in the list. I won't even attempt to pronounce it, but I figured that no ILIS word for an animal should be this long if it could be abbreviated somehow. So those were the goals. Transcribing the words into a system that has a fewer amount of phonemes to choose from, modifying them so they sound nice within the bigger picture of an ILIS utterance, and abbreviating them wherever possible, all while keeping every single one of the little under 150,000 entries in this list unique. Again, I won't go over the entire transcription paradigm, but let's just say I feel very, very accomplished. Because the list is so long, I also ran into the issue of my spreadsheet program crashing because it couldn't handle the sheer file sizes. So I tried splitting the list and doing everything in chunks, but to no avail. So I had to get a programmer involved to write a little piece of software that would get the entire list processed. Fortunately, I didn't have to look further than my dad, who was very willing to help me out. So thanks, Dad, I can't overstate my gratitude on this one. Since we won't be going over the entire transcription mechanism, I figured that instead we might just look at some animal names so you could familiarize yourself with them and learn the words. You know, just like you would with the vocabulary of any other language. I took a list of 40 animals and will present them in alphabetical order of the English translations. In sentences, these names will usually be preceded by the prefix kore, animal that goes by the name of X or something. Also, keep in mind that the vowel I emphasize in these words is chosen at random and that speakers may choose any other vowel to stress. Alright? Here we go. Avesai. Bird. Avesai. Lepitra. Butterfly, or also a moth. Lepitra. Kamlusai. Camel or dromedary. Kamlusai. Felisai. A cat. Felisai. Galusai. Chicken or rooster. Galusai. Bosai. A cow, bull or ox. Bosai. Corvusai. Crow. Corvusai. Servusai. Deer. Servusai. Canisai. Dog. Canisai. Note that there is also the root word vak, which continues to exist. Vak will probably be used to refer to domesticated dogs, in other words, pets, while the word canisai sounds more scientific, like the English word canine. Furthermore, the word canisai also refers to other members of the canine family, like wolves. Okay? Next. Delphia. Dolphin. Delphia. Anatai. Duck or goose. Anatai. Elefthai. Elephant. Elefthai. Falco. Falcon. Falco. Dipera. Fly. Dipera. Anra. Frog. Anra. Gifa. Giraffe. Gifa. Capra. Goat. Capra. Karausai. Goldfish. Karausai. Hippotmusai. A hippo. Hippotmusai. Ekisai. Horse. Ekisai. Coccinla. Ladybird or ladybug. Coccinla. Panera. A common denomination for panther-like cats such as lions, tigers, leopards, and jaguars. Distinguishing between them comes down to naming the species, and the speaker has some liberty on how to do that. For example, they may continue building on the scientific name, and as such, a lion could become Panera leo, and a tiger could become Panera tigris. Another approach might be adding a description. As such, a lion might become the big panther, for example, Panera mkairaan. A tiger might become the panther to whom stripes are given, Panera io da. Leopards might be described as the panther to whom circles are given, Panera io in, something like that. Okay? Continuing. Llama. Not hard to guess this one, I imagine. Llama. Talpia. Mole. Talpia. Pairitesai. A monkey or ape. Pairitesai. This word derives from the word for primate, and therefore this word can technically also be used for humans. But if you want to speak about a specific monkey or ape, you would need to choose the word for the corresponding family or genus. Alright? On we go. Alcesai. An elk or moose. Alcesai. Culida, mosquito. Culida. Musai, a mouse. Musai. Saitro, ostrich. Saitro. Saitrida, owl. Saitrida. Saifendai, penguin. Saifendai. Susai, pig. Susai. Lepoa, rabbit or hare. Lepoa. Ratusai, a rat. Ratusai. Rirosai, a rhino. Rirosai. Laria, seagull. Laria. Ovisai, sheep. Ovisai. Ciuda, a group containing squirrels, chipmunks, and marmots. Ciuda. Cygnusai, a swan. Cygnusai. Helona, turtle. Helona. And that brings us to the end of our list. I invite you to rewind this video and go over them again to memorize the words. Remember that this was just a selection out of a list that contains 149,653 entries. I'm still thinking about ways to make the full list publicly available, but I'm sure I'll find some way to get it onto the ILIS website. And that concludes our video about animals in ILIS. I am happy and relieved that this obstacle has been tackled. I hope you feel the same way, and I hope you had fun watching. Thanks for swinging by. Hanai na ora.